Tonight we're going to talk about measuring success or failure in your business. So welcome to another episode of your Not So Normal CFO. Tonight we're going to talk about measuring success or failure in your business. And what we like to use to do that is a thing called the Balanced Scorecard. The Balanced Scorecard was created by Drs. Robert Kaplan from Harvard University and David Norton, a management consultant. We use the Balanced Scorecard to monitor business successes and failures. We use 4 categories of KPIs, and I like to measure them monthly because if something's going wrong, you really don't want to wait 3 months and do it quarterly. So monthly gives you the opportunity to see that something is not happening right in your business and make corrections on a timely basis, and you save at least 2 months in that scenario by doing it monthly instead of quarterly. Let me take you through the 4 sets of KPIs, what they mean, and also how we construct them. The first one is always going to be financial, because everybody tends to run their business by the numbers. Some use bank accounts, some use sales, but it's a lot more complicated than that when you look at financial analysis in order to see how your business is running. First item is always going to be profit or loss. So in the last month, did I make money or did I lose money? You want to know that right away because that is an immediate indication of how things are going. So you look at your P&L, you look at the different categories on your P&L, but at the end of the day, the bottom line says whether you had a good month or a bad month. We also want to look at balance sheets. And a lot of small business owners or medium-sized business owners do not look at their balance sheet. They don't understand the concepts of working capital, because embedded in your working capital is accounts receivable, inventory, and those numbers can easily be out of whack when it comes to what's going on in your business, not to mention your accounts payable of who you have to pay for that inventory. Cash flow is another exciting KPI that I like to look at. Matter of fact, some companies have started reporting their cash flow instead of their balance sheet ratios, because cash flow is going to tell you how you're doing with relationships in your receivables, payables, inventory, and how it relates to your banking relationships as far as your debt. So therefore, the cash flow of the company is extremely important because you need the cash to come in before it can go out. The second set of KPIs that are very, very critical, we call customers. And notice that we call it customers and not sales, because who do you sell to? You sell to your customers. You don't sell to sales. So therefore, customers is the second set of KPIs that we want to look at to see what's going on. Were our sales up? Were they down? Were they better than projection, worse than projection? What's the root causes of your sales number for the month? Embedded in that is how many new customers did we get? Because sooner or later, if you're not bringing in new customers, you're going to either be stagnated as far as your business, or you're going to start to decline as customers find alternatives. And that's why it's very important on a monthly basis to analyze and see how many new customers did I acquire. And acquiring customers can get expensive and time-consuming. So sometimes a new customer is defined as somebody that you haven't done business with in over 2 years. But now you're going to go see them, contact them, and now they may become a customer again. The least expensive customer to acquire is the one in your filing cabinet. The third item in the customer area is gross margin, because some customers are profitable and some customers aren't. So an analysis of gross margin by customer will give you an indication of who are you selling to and who are you servicing that you may not be making any money at. And we all know that to deal with individual people, and that's who we have on the other side in our customers, can be simple, can be difficult, or can be impossible. And I know in many cases, some of the projects that I looked at as a CFO was, how much is this customer costing me to service them? Not just in the product that I sell them, and then what is my profit on that product, but also how many meetings do I have to go with for them? How many phone calls do I have to have with them? And in some cases, how many lunches or dinners do I have to have with them? Third area that we like to use on the balanced scorecard is processes and procedures. And a lot of people say, well, how do you measure that? And what importance does that have inside your business? If your sales go from $10 million to $15 million in a particular period, everybody thinks that's great. However, if the $15 million worth of sales exceeds what you can handle in your processes and procedures, what's going to happen over time is you're going to have unhappy customers, customers whose orders were delayed, projects that were done wrong, things that had to be done over, returns that come back from customers. All of that affects whether or not you successfully acquired new sales or new customers. And what that also affects is not only your bottom line, it affects your reputation. So being able to do things quickly, correctly, and with the customer being happy is very important. And that's why we have to see in a given month, how many errors did we have? How many times did we have to go back and fix things? How many times did we have to do things over? What procedures need to be implemented? Collection of cash, the paying of bills, managing your inventory. Sometimes you need to design new processes and you need to implement them to keep your business running either the way it has been running or to improve and run better. We always love to see exception reports in procedures and processes. And anytime a standard operating procedure was broken, and I'm going to tell you in small business, when I go in and analyze, the chief violator of standard operating procedure, 99% of the time is the owner. Because they're not following their own procedures, it creates extra work for the employees, it creates errors in dealing with everybody that you have to deal with, and therefore being in the standard operating procedure mode is going to let your company run smooth, fast, lean, and profitable. So even if you're the owner, you have to do things the way everybody else has to do it. There's no exception for the owner. So at the end of the month, we'd like to see every system and procedure that has been violated and who violated it. And then what was the outcome of that violation? The fourth area that we look at is talent or human capital. The people who work for you, because they are an integral part of your business regardless of what their position is, what their pay rate is, or what function they perform. They make your business run, otherwise you are what we call a one-armed paper hanger. Well, a lot of companies have employees, and those employees are very important. So we need to look every month, what's happening with our talent, what's happening with our human capital, and where do we have good sailing and where we have rough seas. So turnover is the first thing we look at. If you have a company with 50, 60, 100 employees, how many people left in the last month? And why did they leave? Was it circumstances beyond your control, or was it situations that exist within the company and they didn't want to work there anymore? So you have to look at your turnover, and also turnover is very expensive. Whether it's the unemployment insurance, but it's more the hiring of a replacement and the retraining of somebody. So this is something you need to know at the end of every month. The other thing, productivity. I've been talking to a lot of people lately who are trying to decide, can we continue remotely or back into the office? People I'm talking to are saying they basically have to hire 2 people for every one to get the same productivity they used to get. Not only has companies changed, circumstances have changed, employees' approach to business has changed. So if you're going to measure productivity, you want to know who's doing normal productivity, but you most likely need to be aware immediately of people who are below productivity. So the last thing we want to look at is unfilled positions, because that's things that you need done in your company that's not being done because you don't have the person. So for example, if you need 3 people on the shop floor and you can't find them to hire them, then somebody else is going to have to fill in and do that work, whether it's overtime or a bunch of part-timers instead of a full-timer, because you need to get your sales or product or service out the door. And therefore, you need to know at the end of each month where your voids are so that you can fill them, arrange them, so the next month doesn't suffer the same way the previous month suffered. We really don't want management to sit there and delve over facts and figures. So what I like to do is use Excel, get all the items listed on an Excel spreadsheet, put in all the KPIs that they're supposed to be, and then of course at the end of the month we fill in the final result. Now how do we make this efficient for management, efficient for the owner? Well, I like traffic lights. I love traffic lights. And what I do is I use for each metric, all 12 that we just talked about, there's a traffic light. If everything is good, we get a green light. If, well, we didn't hit the KPI, so therefore we might give it a yellow light, caution. Now, of course, if it's hurting you with a company, it gets a red light. Stop and look and find out what happened. So by easily going down the 12 traffic lights that we've established on our balanced scorecard, we know what to pass, go through, we know what to do to slow down and maybe think about it. And then of course we have our traffic lights where we say, stop. We have to dive into this because something's wrong. And that's the balanced scorecard. Sometimes you can make money just by changing how you do business. So that's it for this episode of Your Not So Normal CFO. I hope you've learned something. I hope you'll be implementing things in your company so that every 30 days you take a review, you take a breath, and you make sure the train is running on the tracks.